Breaking news out of Nigeria, where the United States have launched unprecedented strikes against ISIL fighters. An official says they were carried out in Sokoto state in the country's northwest.
Breaking news. U.S. conduct airstrike against Islamic State terrorists in Sokoto. Watch this video to the very end. Please don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, and share it.
Breaking news out of Nigeria, where the United States have launched unprecedented strikes against ISIL fighters. An official says they were carried out in Sokoto state in the country's northwest. President Donald Trump says U.S. forces targeted what he called terrorist scum, claiming the group had been targeting Christians in the region. Shihab Ratanzi joins us now from Washington, D.C. Shihab, what else have the Americans been saying?
Well, I think one of the first questions we had when Donald Trump made the social media post, posted this on social media about an hour ago, was this some unilateral strike, or was this in cooperation with the Nigerian government? And in the last half an hour or so, we've had the statements from both AFRICOM, Africa Command, and the Secretary of Defense suggesting this was in conjunction with the Nigerian government. AFRICOM saying it conducted a strike at the request of Nigerian authorities, and Pete Hegseth saying grateful for Nigerian government support and cooperation. This has been percolating for some time, for Christian evangelical groups for a few decades, really, and Donald Trump even mentioned it a few times in his first term, expressed the narrative that Nigeria wasn't doing enough to protect its Christian population. But in the last 2 months or so, with congressional pressure and the State Department, they declared Nigeria a particular country of concern when it came to the rights of Christians, and we had heard that the U.S. had begun overflight surveillance of Nigeria from an airbase in Accra in Ghana over the last several weeks, and now we have this. The interesting, but not one of the many interesting parts of the story, though, is that the narrative that Donald Trump has been using has been rejected by the Nigerian government. I know we're going to hear from Nigeria in a moment, but they're saying, look, there are a lot of people dying in Nigeria with lots of different conflicts. It's Christians and Muslims being killed for a whole host of reasons. The jihadist groups are killing both Muslims and Christians as well. This isn't just one group being targeted. This is also about resources. But the Nigerian government said, look, we'll welcome any help you have. But they also said, look, don't bomb us. We're a sovereign country. It appears now they have actually allowed the U.S. to bomb. And what's interesting is also that in the last few weeks, we had heard from people in the State Department, from Masad Boulos, the main point man for Africa in the Trump administration, saying they accepted this was much more complicated than Christians being targeted. But now it seems the Trump administration has gone full ahead with this narrative that the Christians are being targeted, and on Christmas Day, the Trump administration acts. This will go down very well with Trump's Christian evangelical base, I'm sure.
Shihab Ratanzi there, joining us from Washington, D.C. Ahmed Idris now joins us from on the line from the Nigerian city of Lagos. ISIL currently the target of this, but Nigeria has been fighting armed groups for years. Just give us some context here.
Well, Imran, it's curious to say ISIL is in Sokoto because ISIL operates largely in the northeast of Nigeria. And what you have there in Sokoto, if Donald Trump's administration is talking about the targeting of Christians, I think these attacks should be more concentrated in central parts of Nigeria, in states like Plateau and Benue, where we've seen several attacks, in fact, not only against Christians, but also against Muslims in those areas, but largely Christian states. So basically, for me, what most Nigerians will find curious is how Sokoto became the target of this attack. Yes, we've seen some pictures of fragments of a missile that landed outside a village called Jabo in Sokoto state. It exploded, but one social media user says it hasn't. The device exploded without injuring or killing anybody outside the village. So to look at the issue of alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria, Sokoto State is probably the last place many Nigerians will think it's happening, because although it's largely more than 96% of the population is Muslim, there has been fewer attacks on Christians, or few attacks on Christians, if any, that I can remember, or churches in that area. But what we've seen largely, the attacks on Christian populations are largely centered in the north central parts of Nigeria. In states like Plateau, that has seen conflict between locals, conflict between farmers and herders, ethnic conflicts between the resident communities and, of course, the settler communities in those states. Similarly, in Benue State, where we've seen conflict between farmers and herders over the past decade or so. Although these conflicts, you can argue, have been there for a very, very long time. The Nigerian authorities, by the way, has not responded to this yet.
Now, Ahmed, in the context of what you've just said, that for many Nigerians, the location of this attack is going to come as a surprise. But it's also going to come as a surprise that the Nigerian government asked for the US government's help in this. Previously, they have said that we are a sovereign country, please do not bomb us. But now they've asked for that US help. Do you think that is a game changer here, or is this a new strategy? What do you think?
It could be. I think it could be. But again, a lot of Nigerians are actually not keen about this so-called alliance between the Nigerian government and the American governments to target, to launch military action in that country. Yes, in Sokoto State, in northwest Nigeria, there have been several attacks, but you are looking at a ragtag army of criminals known as bandits, although the Nigerian authorities labeled them as terrorists again, and of course the presence of a very small group of armed fighters who originated mainly from Niger Republic. They're called the Lakurawas, who have, of course, been labeled as extremists. But again, what we've seen over the last 1 year or so of the presence of this group in northwestern Nigeria, they're just like criminals, like the bandits that have been operating, kidnapping people for ransom, and also targeting communities, isolated communities. So a lot of Nigerians will wake up to the news that the American government has launched military strikes in northwest Nigeria, targeting, according to President Trump, ISIL. Well, ISIL is not present in northwest Nigeria. If you are looking for ISIL, you probably will have to go to the northeast of the country, where it has affiliates there. Boko Haram has been active in that area for more than 15 years, and of course there is a breakaway faction of Boko Haram that linked up with ISIL. It's called the ISWAP, Islamic State for West Africa Province. So they've been active in that area. If Donald Trump is trying to bomb ISIL, a lot of people will be thinking the best place to be will be the northeast of Nigeria, where, of course, on the eve of Christmas, there was a suicide bomb attack inside a mosque that was carried out by one of these groups, allegedly by the authorities are alleging that one of these groups conducted that bomb attack in that mosque.
Ahmed Idris reporting for us live from Lagos. Thank you.